Florida basketball is not entering the 2027 season hoping a group of new players somehow fits together. The Gators already know exactly what they are. They are big, physical, experienced, difficult to score against, and almost impossible to keep off the glass. Most of the team that went 27-8, finished 16-2 in the SEC, won the regular season conference championship, and earned a #1 seed is back for another run. But nobody in Gainesville is going to remember last season only for the SEC championship. Florida's season ended in the second round when Iowa hit a late three and beat the Gators 73-72. Florida had the size advantage, the experience advantage, and the better roster, but none of it mattered when the game came down to one possession. Florida is bringing back 4 starters and most of the players who controlled its season, but it did lose Xaivian Lee and Micah Hanlockton. Hanlockton was a useful reserve center and one of Florida's better rebounders, but the Gators have enough front court depth to cover those minutes. Lee is the much more interesting loss because his departure can be viewed in 2 completely different ways. Lee led Florida with about 4.2 assists per game. He could push the ball, get into the lane, and create a shot when the offense was stuck. He also scored 17 points on efficient shooting in the loss to Iowa, so it would be unfair to blame that game on him. But over the full season, his fit was not always clean. Lee averaged 11.6 points, but shot only 29.2% from 3. That is where he could become a liability. It was not because he lacked talent, it was because his biggest weakness matched Florida's biggest team weakness. The Gators shot only 31.2% from 3, and Lee was a high-usage guard who did not consistently punish teams for leaving him open. He could also become loose with the ball and spend too much time creating difficult shots instead of quickly getting Florida into its offense. Florida will miss his speed and passing, but it might be able to replace him with a guard who fits this specific roster better. The Gators do not need somebody to dominate the ball. They need guards who can deliver it to the front court, defend, make open threes, and stay under control late in games. That brings us to Boogie Fland, because no player will have a bigger effect on Florida's ceiling. Fland averaged 11.6 points, 3.5 assists, 2.5 rebounds, and 1.7 steals in his first season at Florida. He shot 44.7% overall, which was impressive for a smaller guard, but made only 30 of his 125 three-point attempts. That was exactly 24%, and it became the one area of his game that opponents were comfortable challenging. Fland is at his best when he is attacking before the defense gets organized. He is quick with the ball, changes direction without slowing down, and can turn a rebound into a scoring chance within seconds. When he gets one defender moving backward, he can reach the paint, finish himself, or drop the ball off to one of Florida's big men. He is also disruptive defensively. Fland's hands are quick, and he has a good feel for when a ball handler is exposing the basketball. He creates steals that immediately become easy points. Florida does not need him gambling on every possession, but his pressure can change the speed of a game. His next step is becoming a more controlled point guard. There were possessions last season when he attacked without reading what was in front of him. Florida has too many good players for its point guard to force a difficult layup while Haugh, Condon, or Klavzar is open. Fland has to decide when to push and when to pull the ball out and let Florida's size take over. The shot does not have to become great overnight. If Fland gets from 24% into the low 30s, defenses can no longer completely ignore him. That little improvement would give Condon more room to pass, Chinyelu more space to roll, and Haugh cleaner driving lanes. I have Fland averaging 13.2 points, 4.8 assists, 2.8 rebounds, and around 1.7 steals. His value will be determined less by a scoring total and more by how well he controls the team. The next guard is Denzel Aberdeen, but every prediction involving Aberdeen has to come with a condition. As of July 17th, he has not publicly received the NCAA waiver he needs to play another season. Florida has brought him back into the program, given him a jersey number, and included him in its plans, but his eligibility battle remains unresolved. Todd Golden has been confident publicly, and Aberdeen's side could consider legal action if the waiver is denied, but Florida cannot officially count on him yet. If Aberdeen is cleared, he should start immediately. He spent his first 3 seasons at Florida before transferring to Kentucky, where he became a full-time starter. He averaged 13.5 points, 3.4 assists, and 2.5 rebounds, while shooting 36.3% from 3. He started 35 of Kentucky's 36 games and proved he could handle a much larger offensive role. Aberdeen would give Florida exactly what Lee could not give it consistently. He is 6'5", can defend either guard position, and has to be respected away from the ball. He doesn't need to dribble for 10 seconds to affect a possession. He can space the floor, attack a closeout, or take over the point when Fland needs a break. He already understands Golden's system and has played with most of Florida's returning core. He was also part of the program's 2025 national championship team, so there should not be a long adjustment period. The version of Aberdeen coming back from Kentucky would be more confident and more complete than the player who left Gainesville. I do not expect him to take as many shots as he did at Kentucky because Florida has more proven scoring inside. I have Aberdeen averaging 12 points, 3.3 assists, and 3 rebounds while shooting around 37% from 3. If he's cleared, he might be the player who makes the entire roster fit. Thomas Haugh is Florida's best all-around offensive player and my choice to lead the team in scoring. He averaged 17.1 points, 6.1 rebounds, and a little more than 2 assists last season. He played more minutes than any other Gator and returned after earning All-American recognition. Haugh is difficult to describe with one position because Florida can use him almost anywhere. At 6'9", he can grab a defensive rebound and bring the ball up himself. He can attack slower forwards, post up smaller wings, run the floor, and cut behind defenders. He does not have to stand in one spot waiting for a play to be called. What separates Haugh is how often he finds points without controlling the ball. He runs harder than most players his size. He crashes the offensive glass from the perimeter. He recognizes when a defender turns his head and immediately cuts toward the rim. Those plays add up over a full game. The outside shot is what could take off from being one of the best players in the SEC to one of the best players in the country. Haugh shot 32.6% from 3. Defenders respected him enough to close out, but they were still willing to give him some space if it helped them protect the paint. If Haugh reaches 35 or 36%, there is no comfortable matchup for him. A bigger defender will struggle to stay in front of him. A smaller defender can be taken into the post. Giving him space would no longer be an option. Florida also needs Haugh to become its late-game answer. When a game slows down and the first play does not work, he has the size and skill to create a respectable shot. I have him averaging 17.8 points, 6.7 rebounds, and 2.6 assists. I expect him to be Florida's leading scorer and one of the main names in the National Player of the Year conversation. Alex Condon might be the player who makes Florida different from every other team in the country. He averaged 15.1 points, 7.5 rebounds, 3.6 assists, and 1.4 blocks while shooting 55.6% from the field. Those are strong numbers for any forward. They're even more impressive because so much of what Condon does is not captured by scoring alone. Condon is 6'11", but Florida does not use him only as a screen setter and finisher. The Gators can give him the ball near the free throw line and allow him to organize the offense. He can hit a cutter, find a shooter coming off a screen, or throw the ball inside to Chinyelu.
That passing becomes especially valuable when opponents pressure Florida's guards. Fland can get the ball to Condon and move without it. Condon catches it, faces the floor, and decides where the next advantage is. Most teams do not have a player his size who can make those decisions. He can also score inside. Condon has good touch with either hand, finishes through contact, and moves well enough to beat slower centers. He does not need Florida to run the same post-up over and over because he scores within the movement of the offense. The three-point shot remains the question. Condon made 9 of his 53 attempts last season. Teams are going to continue leaving him open until he proves that decision is dangerous. Florida does not need him taking 5 threes every night. It needs him to make an open one without hesitating. I have Condon averaging 14.7 points, 8 rebounds, 3.8 assists, and around 1.5 blocks. His scoring could stay about the same, but I expect him to become even more important as a passer and late-game decision-maker. Rueben Chinyelu gives Florida its toughness. He averaged 10.9 points and 11.2 rebounds, set a school record with 137 offensive rebounds, and won both the Naismith and NABC National Defensive Player of the Year awards. He also became the first Florida player to win the NABC honor. Chinyelu controls games without needing the ball. He runs directly to the rim, sets physical screens, and treats every missed shot like it belongs to him. An opponent can play good defense for an entire possession, force Florida into a miss, and still give up points because Chinyelu creates another chance. Those extra possessions are a major reason Florida can survive poor shooting nights. The Gators do not always need to be efficient on the first attempt because Chinyelu, Condon, and Haugh can overpower teams on the glass. Defensively, Chinyelu changes how opponents attack the basket. Guards know he is waiting behind the first defender. Even when he does not block a shot, he forces players to release the ball higher, earlier, or from a worse angle than they wanted. He can also move well enough to survive when teams pull him away from the rim. He is not a center who has to remain planted in the paint. He can step out, contain the ball, and recover to his man. His weakness is still foul trouble. Chinyelu committed 103 fouls and averaged only 24.5 minutes. Some of those fouls came from trying to make a play that was not necessary, especially far away from the basket. Florida needs him available at the end of games, not sitting with 4 fouls after playing 19 minutes.
I have him averaging 11 points, 11.5 rebounds, and around 1.4 blocks while shooting above 60%. If he can consistently play 26 or 27 minutes, he could lead the country in rebounding. Klavzar is the 6th man, but he may finish more games than some starters. He averaged 9.6 points in only 20.7 minutes, made 71 threes, shot 40.6% from deep, and hit 90.3% of his free throws. He was also named the SEC 6th Man of the Year. Klavzar is Florida's most dependable shooter. He moves well without the ball, gets his feet ready before the pass arrives, and releases it quickly. Defenders cannot help far off him because he needs almost no time to get a clean shot away. Keeping him on the bench to begin games is not a punishment. It allows Golden to change the floor after the first few minutes. Florida can start with size and defense, then bring in Klavzar when it needs more room around the paint. Teams will try to attack him defensively. They will put him in ball screens, force him to switch on the larger players, and make Florida decide whether his shooting is worth the matchup. Most nights, it will be. I have Klavzar averaging 10.4 points, 2 assists, and around 41% from 3. He will have several games where he changes everything with 3 or 4 quick shots. Isaiah Brown should have a larger role after averaging 5.5 points and 2.5 rebounds in fewer than 13 minutes. He shot 47.4% overall and 34.6% from 3, giving Florida useful production without needing many touches. Brown is strong, athletic, and willing to guard talented wings. He runs the floor, cuts hard, and can finish through contact. His offense can occasionally become rushed because he sees an opening and attacks before checking where the help defense is coming from. Once he slows down and makes the simple play, his minutes should grow. I have him averaging 7 points and just over 3 rebounds in around 17 minutes. He may not become a featured scorer, but there will be nights when his defense earns him a place in Florida's closing lineup. A.J. Brown is the unknown piece in the backcourt. He missed the entire 2025-26 season while recovering from surgery. During his final healthy season at Ohio, he averaged 13.2 points and 3.2 rebounds while shooting 38.8% from 3. Brown gives Florida another experienced shooter who can do more than stand in the corner. He can attack a hard closeout, finish with strength, and make a shot late in the clock. The question is how quickly his body and timing return after a full season away. He also has to prove he can defend SEC guards. Florida is too deep to leave somebody on the floor if opponents are repeatedly hunting him.
With Aberdeen available, I have A.J. Brown averaging about 6.5 points in 14 or 15 minutes. Without Aberdeen, he becomes a starting candidate and could reach double figures.
C.J. Ingram is one of the most physically gifted players on the roster. He averaged only 2.2 points as a freshman, but he made 8 of his 16 three-point attempts and showed flashes of becoming a real two-way wing. Ingram is 6'6", strong and comfortable with contact because of his background as a high-level football prospect. He has the body to defend older players right now. The question is whether his shooting and decision-making are ready for a steady role. The 50% three-point number looks great, but 16 attempts are not enough to prove he is an elite shooter. He has to show it over a larger sample while limiting mistakes defensively. I have Ingram averaging 5 points and 2.5 rebounds. His role could begin small and grow quickly if his shooting holds up. Demain Petrovic is entering his first season of American college basketball, but he is not a normal first-year player. He is a 22-year-old 6'9" forward who has already played professionally in Slovenia. He averaged 16.6 points while shooting 57.4% overall and 39.5% from three during his most recently reported club season. Petrovic gives Florida a different front court option. When Chinyelu leaves the floor, Florida can use Condon at center and Petrovic as a shooting forward. That would pull another defender away from the basket and give Haugh more room to attack. The adjustment will come defensively. SEC forwards are faster and more powerful than most of the opponents he has faced. Petrovic has to rebound, move his feet, and prove that teams cannot attack him every possession. His shooting gives him a path to real minutes. I have him averaging 6 points and 3 rebounds while shooting around 37% from three. By conference play, he could become a regular part of the main rotation. Arturas Bataevas is a 6'10" freshman who averaged 15.6 points and 7.6 rebounds for Unicaja Malaga's under-22 team. He also averaged 13.9 points and 9.3 rebounds for Lithuania at the 2025 FIBA Under-18 European Championship. Bataevas is physical, active, and comfortable playing around the basket. He screens, rebounds, and finishes without needing the offense built around him. Florida will not need major production from him immediately because Condon and Chinyelu are ahead of him. His biggest challenge will be adjusting to the speed and strength of the SEC without getting into foul trouble. I have him averaging about 3.5 points and 2.5 rebounds in limited minutes. This season should prepare him for a much larger role once Florida's veteran frontcourt begins to move on. Alex Lloyd appeared in 17 games as a freshman and averaged 1.2 points. He made 4 threes but struggled to establish a steady role behind Florida's older guards. Lloyd has enough size and skill to play either guard position. His path to the floor is simple: defend, protect the ball, and make open shots. Florida does not need him taking difficult attempts or trying to prove everything in 2 possessions. The depth chart is crowded, but backcourt roles can change quickly because of injuries or Aberdeen's eligibility decision. I have Lloyd averaging around 2.5 points and 1 assist, with most of his early opportunities coming during the non-conference schedule. Kovacev provides experience and size, but there are too many players ahead of him for a large role. His biggest value will come in practice and in games where Florida needs another guard because of injuries or foul trouble. I have him around 1 point per game in limited action. Victor Mikic appeared in 17 games, scoring 22 points and grabbing 14 rebounds. At 6'11", he gives Florida another physical center who can absorb minutes when Chinyelu is dealing with fouls. Mikic is not going to have plays called for him. His job is to set screens, rebound, defend the rim, and avoid mistakes. I have him averaging around 1.5 points and 1 rebound. Those numbers may look small, but having an experienced reserve center matters during a long SEC season. Jones Lay is the final scholarship player in the frontcourt. He's a 7-foot freshman and was rated as a 3-star prospect when he signed with Florida. Lay has the size to become a useful rim protector and rebounder, but he needs time to add strength and adjust to college speed. Florida can afford to develop him slowly because of the older players ahead of him. Most of his minutes should come late in non-conference games and one-sided results. I have him averaging around 1 point and 1 rebound. If Aberdeen receives his waiver, my starting five is Boogie Fland at point guard, Denzel Aberdeen at shooting guard, Thomas Haugh on the wing, Alex Condon at power forward, and Rueben Chinyelu at center. Klavzar would be the sixth man and one of the most likely players to finish close games. Isaiah Brown, A.J. Brown, and Petrovic would form the next part of the rotation. Ingram would compete for wing minutes, while Butchavitis would be the first young big man Florida uses when it needs extra size. Without Aberdeen, I would start A.J. Brown if he's fully healthy. That keeps Klavzar in the sixth-man role where he has already succeeded and gives the starting backcourt more size. Fland would have to handle more of the playmaking, and Florida would need Lloyd or Ingram to become dependable sooner than expected.
Florida's best five may still be Fland, Aberdeen, Klavzar, Haugh, and Condon. That lineup would have 4 players who can handle the ball, much better shooting, and enough size to survive defensively. When Florida needs to protect the lead or dominate the glass, Chinyelu would replace one of the guards. My projected scoring leaders are Haugh at 17.8 points, Condon at 14.7, Fland at 13.2, Aberdeen at 12 if eligible, Chinyelu at 11, and Klavzar at 10.4. I expect Florida to average around 86 points and raise its three-point percentage from 31.2% into the 34 to 35% range. Florida does not need to become the best shooting team in the country. It needs to become average enough that defenses cannot place 5 players near the paint. Klavzar is already proven. Aberdeen would help immediately. Petrovic adds another front-court shooter. The season will come down to whether Fland, Haugh, and Condon make enough improvement to force defenses into honest decisions. The schedule is going to test Florida early. The Gators have announced games involving Miami, Duke, and a strong players-era field that could match them with programs such as Notre Dame, Houston, Kansas, or Auburn. Florida will take losses because the schedule and the SEC are too difficult for any team to remain perfect. With Aberdeen eligible, I have Florida finishing 27-4 overall and 15-8 in the SEC. Without him, I would lower that to 25-6 and 13-5. Either version should compete for another conference championship, but Aberdeen makes the difference between having a strong backcourt and having a backcourt that can survive almost any matchup. This roster should earn another #1 seed and reach at least the Elite 8. Anything earlier would be a serious failure. Florida is too experienced, too big, and too talented to treat a Sweet 16 appearance as a successful season. My final prediction is a Final Four appearance with a real chance to win the national championship. The front court is good enough. The defense is good enough. The rebounding may be the best in the country. The only question is whether the guards can make the right play when Florida cannot simply overpower somebody. That is what ended last season. Florida reached the final possession against Iowa and did not finish. This year, the Gators have another chance, most of the same core, and potentially a cleaner fit in the backcourt. If Fland improves, Aberdeen gets cleared, and the outside shooting becomes dependable, Florida will not just be one of the teams capable of winning the championship. It may be the most complete team in college basketball.